Hey, it's your favorite guy from YouTube, Chris Palmer, and I'm coming to talk to you about the difference between Republican run states and Democrat run states. Okay, we have more shootings in Democrat states, California, Chicago, New York, and all of those states, Seattle, and stuff like that. And that's the gun-free states. That's the ones that's the hardest for a lawful civilian to get a gun. And it's the easiest for the criminals to get a gun. And when Biden talks about gun control and him being a Democrat, that tells me right there that this, when it comes down to it, it'll be the good guys without guns and the bad guys with the guns. So, when you think about it like that, it's kind of, you have to think of gun ownership as a deterrent. When people know that you own guns, or that you're in a state that is pro-gun and people have a lot of guns, they know that if they take a chance of breaking into a home, that they may end up with a 12 gauge shoved in their face, or an AR-15 or AK-47 or a Glock 40 cal, or any kind of gun like that. And when you're in a state and you know that they don't have the guns and the criminals do have the guns, then that's when drive-bys, gang violence, and all this stuff. I heard earlier today they were talking about 41,000 gun deaths, but 27,000 of those were suicides. You can't put that as gun violence, because they would have slit their wrist, they would have done anything, however they stepped out into traffic, jumped off a bridge, whatever they, do to kill themselves. And that's what they're going to do. If they're going to kill themselves, they're going to kill themselves. So you can't put that into gun violence. You can't put military deaths into gun violence, because that is a war. That is a wretched place where somebody is trying to kill you. That is what it is. War is not a heroic thing. It is dirty and nasty, and over where we're fighting, you can't tell the good guys from the bad guys, because they all dress alike. And the same guy you may be shaking hands with today, he's shooting at you the next day and then throwing the AK-47 down and running away. That's why this war's went on as long as it has, because when you don't have a specific enemy in uniform like our military is, you don't know who you're fighting. All you can do is go by profiling of the people, and that's anyone of fighting age, and that's all you can go by. And none of that should be in the gun violence thing. And and then you have uh, accidental discharges and stuff like that. And that shouldn't go in there. That should go in as careless acts, is what that should go in under. And when you divide all this stuff up, it shows that the gun violence that they're talking about is way blown out of proportion. They want to make you think all the gun violence is like Sandy Hook and school shootings and all this stuff, and it's not. It's simply either people trying to end their own lives, or they put the military that has been shot overseas in there with it. They put all kinds of other stuff in there, and it makes that number look big and makes everybody think, God, that's a lot. But once you break it down, it's not. And then what you do is you break it down even more. You go to where all this gun violence is taking place, and it's all these gun-free zones. That is where it's taking place. So it's like Ronald Reagan said, gun control does not hurt the criminals. It hurts the people, the good American citizens that will stand up to back down those criminals. That's why he backed the NRA so much. And I mean, Ronald Reagan was a smart man. He went from actor to the president of the United States, and he did a damn good job. He had Gorbachev tear down the wall, and he done all kinds of things. He he wouldn't put up with none of that stuff like that. And on the Second Amendment, he was straight up for the Second Amendment, because it's just like the nuclear deterrence that we have against other countries. We have ballistic nuclear missiles. They have ballistic nuclear missiles, and we don't want to get to shoot them in each other because we all don't want to die. And it's the same thing with guns. If criminals know you have guns, they're not going to break into your house. They're not going to try to rob you. They're not going to try to do that. And that's why the rates of murder and robbery and rape and stuff like that are way down in Texas and Tennessee and all the states that are pro-gun. I mean, I grew up around guns, and everybody around me grew up around guns, and we never had any gun violence. I mean, back when I was young, we had gun racks in our trucks and took them and drove them to school. I mean, and we never had no school shootings or anything like that, because we'd all went down there and loaded our guns, and we'd have ended him, whoever come in shooting in our school. That's the way it was when I was young. And if they would leave the guns for private citizens to get and make it more easier for them to get, it would be better off. It would be like that nuclear deterrent that we have against other countries. And that way, people would know, well, they're armed. We're not going to try to get in there and do that to them. And that's the way it ought to be thought about. And instead of hiding from guns, if you don't know nothing about a gun and you're curious and you want to own one, get someone that knows how to use one, and to teach you how to use one safely, and get comfortable with the gun and shoot it. It's super fun. Me and my son shoot pellet rifles all the time, and I'm teaching them gun safety the whole time that we do. Even with our crossbows, they're not considered guns, but they're like guns. They have triggers and everything, and we have fun doing that. But on the Democrat-run cities are the ones and the Democrat-free run cities with harsh gun laws are the ones that have the highest murder rates in the world. And the ones that make it easy for their citizens to get guns, and they go through their background checks. And I don't know where people go on in the news and say that they don't have background checks. Every time you buy a gun, you go through a background check. You fill out your paperwork, they call the ATF right then and there, and they run you through the computer to make sure you're able to have a gun. Every state has it. It is a state law. It's been federal law for God knows how long. So the background checks is not the problem. It's the criminals that get a hold of illegal guns. And it don't matter how many gun laws you pass, it's not going to stop them from getting a hold of illegal guns. And it's like beating a dead horse to try to get people to understand that that's how it is. But that is exactly how it is. Criminals are going to get illegal guns no matter what, because they're not going by the law. You are thinking with a lawful mind that, if I was a criminal, I wouldn't, if I wasn't supposed to have a gun, I wouldn't get one. The criminals are thinking, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna get my gun. I'm gonna rob this dude, or I'm gonna kill this guy. I mean, you have to think like the criminals. They're gonna get that gun no matter what. Uh, Normal, everyday citizens don't think like that. They think, I'll get the gun and I'll use it for protection. I will do it if I have to. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it is in most states, except for like even Seattle. I mean, they took over 2 blocks, would not allow the police in, open carrying AR-15s all over the place. And I don't know how many people got shot, injured, or killed in that situation, but it was insane. I couldn't imagine that would never happen in Tennessee. Ever. Never. Ever. Not even in this little small town that I live in. And for it to be in Seattle, Washington, with a big, huge cops being in there, a bunch of cops, in different precincts and stuff, it's unimaginable to me that that actually happened. But that is a Democratic run state, and it's just like California. All the gangbangers have guns. They got them illegally, just like they would. It don't matter how many times they've been in prison, they still got guns. So it don't matter if they're a felon, they'll go buy it from somebody that's got them illegally from somewhere else. I mean, that's just how it works. But as in gun control and Biden's idea of gun control, uh, buybacks, just a nice way of saying confiscation. And you shouldn't, if you hadn't done any crimes or anything, you shouldn't have your guns confiscated. The Second Amendment, it says it is not to be infringed upon. That means for no reason should it be infringed upon. I mean, they can parade all these school shootings around and try to make you feel bad about it, but there's nothing to feel bad about it. That's some evil person that took a object that is made to shoot and went in there and made that object shoot. Because I know that AR-15 or AK-47 or Glock 40 cal didn't walk into a school and shoot these people themselves. And they don't ever talk about the shooter. They just talk about the gun violence. It's the sick individuals that handle the guns is the problem, not the guns. Law-abiding citizens having guns, that will stop people like that. If teachers want to carry guns in school, I say let them, because if that one coach that took like 8 rounds in the back saving those kids, if he'd had a gun, he'd turn around, put one in the head and one in the heart, and that dude would have not shot at another kid. Instead, he had to die because he couldn't carry on campus. I mean, y'all need to think about this stuff. And I mean, common sense goes a long way. I mean, if y'all think about it, if y'all were going to rob me and you knew I had like 5 ARs and 2 AK-47s and a few deer rifles and a couple pistols, wouldn't you think twice before coming and robbing my house? I think you would. I mean, this is just a little bit of Palmer's common sense, and I'm going to end it at that. I've got another one coming up tomorrow that I'm going to do about the election on the 6th and stuff, And I'll talk with you tomorrow. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow.